All right guys, so today we're working on 2003 Dodge Ram 1500. Heater core is leaking. I'm going to show y'all how to replace that heater core without having to disconnect your AC lines. So let's jump right to it. All right, first things first, disconnect your negative battery. Mine is a number 10. Just disconnected it. All right, so the first thing I've done is taking this panel off right here underneath the dash, underneath the steering column. It exposes all this right here. We're going to be taking this out, dropping this whole steering wheel, getting it down, so when we get all this other stuff disconnected, we can get it out the way. But for now, we got this down. It is 2 star drive screws. I don't know the size. Got them off of there. I'm going to put these screws back where I just disconnected them from. That way I know where they go. By the way, please don't ask me if this is the same as this year truck, that year truck, because I don't know. Look it up. It's the best thing I can tell you. For which year you have, see if it's the same as the same as I have. I know a lot of trucks, the years are the same as far as certain things, but yeah, all I know is mine's a 2003 Dodge Ram 1500. So I'm putting these 2 screws back in here just so I don't have to keep up with them, and I do that as much as I can. Take pictures along the way if you're not confident in what you're doing. Even if you are confident in what you're doing, take pictures. It's going to help you out. All right, so next is the steering column plastic pieces that go around this. There's 3 screws underneath this thing. All right, so this sits up underneath here like this. All right, that's how this goes. You got 1 screw right here. All right, and when this is in place, this little tab right here is what raises and lowers your steering if you want it to do that. And this slides in. You slide that right in so you can slide it right out. All right, but there's 3 and they're the same star drives as we use to take these off. And the reason we're doing all this, we've got to disconnect these wires. Next, I'm disconnecting my brake line. Got to pull this brake out. I'm gonna try to get it angled where y'all can see. There's that right there. Push down on it. All right, that gets it unhooked, and just slide it off. All right, that's gonna allow you to take this out when we're ready to take that out. Panels, they pop right off. All right, that panel pops off. All these panels, they pop right off. You can take this, they all just pop off. Just give them a tug. All right, we're gonna need to get to these. All right, so there's some screws to take out. And they're just Phillip heads, but it's this whole plastic piece. You'll see all the screws going into these. You got to take them out. There's 1 right there, and there's 1 on the very corner over there. Let me go over there and show y'all. I know this is a lot of jumping around. There's 1 way back there. It's right there in that corner. You got to take a screw out right there. And again, see how that's coming up? You can't take this out just yet though. There's still things you got to do. Got to take these off on both sides. You got to pull this front flap up. This just pops up. We're going to get to that. And then from there, there's some screws that are screwed down to some framing. We'll get those screws right up there, and we'll be able to take this out. There's 2 underneath here also. Right here, your steering, all your controls, right, or your miles, power, and all that. There's 2 screws right there. that are connected to that. So get all them out. That right there will just pop up in the very front. We're gonna take these off and show y'all what it's like after that. All right, so we got them pulled, these two front. Stick your screwdriver in these little tabs. Just pop that tab out. Two 10mm bolts. I put them right back where they go. Well, y'all know that's where they go. If there's anything you can't, that's what they look like. If there's anything you can put back after taking a piece off, put that bolt back, man. And it's gonna help you out in the long run. Did that side, I did that side. My truck, I see that wire sticking up over there. There's nothing connected to it. That's the way it is. Yours may be connected to something. Take a picture. This harness over here, it's got to be disconnected. When I pull this dash, that's going to have to be disconnected. So we can go ahead and disconnect that. We'll go ahead and pry these up. I'll let y'all know right now. Pry that up. If you got the original in your truck, that's probably going to crack. Dodges are infamous for that, for these older models. It's probably going to crack. Mine's been redone. All this is new. Oh, I say it's new. It's been redone, so mine's not going to crack. But if you haven't done it before, and it might now be a good time to order you some new stuff for that, because it's probably going to crack. But we're going to get underneath there and just, all we got to do is pry, and I may not even need to do that. Yeah, see, I just pull them up. I go all the way across, and then I'll just be able to slide that piece out. All right, so I pulled that piece, and I forgot there are tabs up front. See these tabs? Some of them. Now this is the new piece that I bought. This isn't original Dodge right here. This is a whole nother company that made this. So these little tabs, this one's bent up pretty good, but they lock in to them little slots right there like that. And yeah, but the rest are these tabs, and they just push in. So that's where we're at with that. Next, I'm gonna take these bolts out. You got, I want to say those are, I don't remember. As soon as I take them out, I'll let y'all know what size these are. But there's 4 of them small ones, 2 of these bigger ones. All right, that's part of your metal frame that's underneath there. That's got to be undone. And these just hold the plastic. These 4, there's 4 like this. They just hold the plastic. So let's get them done. Get them out. All right, so now we got all the screws undone from this thing. Got a little side panel, sits right here. Pop that off. This connected right here, so should just come up and out. Got all of them undone. Get that out the way. There we go. That's out the way. You got another side panel on the other side as well, just like this. They just pop out. So there's the 2 screws that are left, bolts. All right, the small ones are 8mm. These bigger ones are 10mm. That's part of the frame. That's part of the, there's a metal frame that's what we got to take out to get this whole dash out the way. But that's not the only 2 bolts. We got these 2 right here, and there's more on the other side. We'll get to those in just a minute. All right, we took them 2 bolts out, and the whole reason we took this whole panel out, because when we put this back together, all your AC ductwork stuff, it's got to line up in here. But I'm going to take this out. This is a pipe, and it just goes to another pipe back there. Take a picture of this. I already know how it goes, but take a picture. These actually, they just come up. It's part of your AC work. I'm just gonna throw them in the back of the truck. But you can see down there them 2 holes. I hope you can see down there them 2 holes. But they just go on top of them holes. So that's that. We'll get that out the way and see what we're gonna go to next. There's really no infinite order besides moving something out the way before you can move something else out the way. So here's the other 2 bolts on the other side. You got 2 right here. There's actually 1 on the inside down in there we got to get to. And I'll show you how to get to that in a little bit. Before we even take this all out though, we still got to get all these wires and stuff undone from over here on that side of the dash. Don't forget, all right? We got to undo all that stuff. Haven't gotten to that yet, but we got to, that's for sure. All right, guys, so here's most of the wiring harness that you really got to get done. This, from mine, you see this blue box? Mine didn't have anything plugged in this blue box, so I don't have to worry about that. You get under here and take a picture before you disassemble it. This is a 10mm bolt. Unscrew it, that whole piece will come out. This is a clip that slides in there. It's not the easiest to come off. You gotta push down on this tab pretty good and pull it out. Or even behind this, just give it your best that you can push down on this tab and pull it out. It takes a little finagling, or it did for me, but that's what you got to do with that. You got to disconnect that. You got your hood, 2 Phillips head screws, your hood pop, you got to take that off. And there's 2 bolts that come from underneath the steering column into the frame. That's got to be undone before you can pull the frame. I'll show y'all where those are. All right, pulled the hood pop and latch deal. I put them screws back in there so I don't have to know where to go. This is a little cross member bar. This has got to be pulled off of here. It's 2 just Phillips screws, but should come off of there. That little piece got me right in a little bit of a bind. Just right there we go. All right, so now we got that. Get it out the way. That's connected to your computer, but that's gonna have to, you're gonna have to finagle your way, because this is connected to the wiring harness that's connected to the frame. But you gotta undo it, because it's got to get around this steering column. So there you go. We got 4 bolts underneath the steering column. I think they're 13mm. You can see there's 1, 2, there's 2 back there. 1, 2. All right, once we pull them, that's going to allow this steering column to drop. This is your brake light engager. All you got to do is give this thing a little quarter turn counterclockwise, and it comes right out. And it's pretty much that simple. Same thing to put it back on, put it back in, give it a quarter clockwise turn. Little bracket may bend. All right, it's prone to bending. And what engages your brakes, when you do not have your foot on the brake, your brake pedal comes back and presses on this little lever, and that turns your brake lights off. When you hit your brake, that pressure comes off and your brakes come on. So if you put all this back together and you find your brake lights are on, this piece right here more than likely bent. So you can apply enough pressure and bend it closer to that. So this is a long process, guys, but before we drop this steering column, there's still more stuff you got to undo from this wiring harness. These 2 right here, they slide in. They just slide in, but you gotta press on them from the top. You gotta reach up underneath there from the top and press on them. Is where their little buttons are to press. You press on them. If you can get a screwdriver or your fingers, but that's where they go right there. You got to undo them. Still haven't undone my this big connection right here. I'm going to drop my steering wheel before I do that. Have more room to get to it. You got 2 pieces over here. Goes to, one's for your transmission. It goes right here. See this red tab? You got to pull that red tab back, then push down on this right here, pop it off. There's another one. This little white connector right here goes right here into that. If you can see it, you got to push down on that little tab Pull it out. Again, take pictures, guys. Take pictures on it. And as you take these bolts out right here, these 10 millimeters, your last bolt is going to be what's holding this whole thing. So take the 2 rear ones out first, and then take one of these out. And when you get to your last one, you're going to want to hold that steering column up a little bit before you get your last one out, and that way you don't have as much pressure on your bolt. It'll come out easier, then you can just lower it. All right, guys. And all right, guys, there she is, dropped. So see, we got this little tab right here. Push that back, disconnect it. I don't know about this one yet. Looks like this comes up and probably slides out. I don't know. There's one on the bottom. It's a red tab. Okay, there's a red tab. Push it that way. Still don't know. It's working its way off. There we go. So that's all the wires. All right, everything's disconnected. Now, we haven't gotten all the bolts yet. We still got to take these bolts off. And like I showed y'all, we had to pull this. You can leave it connected. The reason we had to pull it was to get to this bolt right here for that top plate. That's why we had to pull this. You can leave it on there. The same with this. You can pop this back on there. You don't have to disconnect these. All right, we got these 2 bolts out, 13 millimeters. That's a 13 millimeter. Now we get to this one by pulling this whole piece off of here. It's a little bit tricky. It's hooked from down there. Again, if you remember, you had to disconnect your doohickey right there for your brake. For your brake there, you got to disconnect it, but got to pull this out, and therefore you got to pull this off. There's 2 screws right here on the side for the side plate, or this is the side plate, I'm sorry. So this is, you can see the 2 screw holes right there, 1, 2, and this goes in there like so. So you're gonna have to take this off. Same thing on the other side. You're gonna take side plates off on the other side. And this panel right here, take both of them out on both sides. You can get around without doing it, but all they do is just pop out. It's just little inserts. May take a little bit of prime, but you can pop them out. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side over there. On the other side, again, pull these up, just pry it. It overlaps right here. Pry it from this side right here, pry it up, and then pop them up. Pop, pop, pop. They pull up, and then unpop it from there. You can see the little certs where they go into. This one right here will go into that hole down here. Get it out the way. Disconnect these wires, harnesses, your radio antenna wire. There's a bolt right here we're going to get out the way. This is good. It's not in the way. It's connected to this whole piece, so we don't need to do it. It'll come off. There's 2 bolts right here. We are going to need to take this off from here though. Mine again is not connected to anything. It just sits there, so yours may be connected to a wire. If it is, disconnect it. So yeah, we'll get there and undo these. And some of the last is we're going to pull this out, and there's 2 bolts down there we have to get to the frame also. All right, so these wiring harnesses right here are kind of tough. This one, this white one, mine is white. See these 2 plugs? They plug in right there. I say plug, that holds them up against there. But you have to pull it away from here to disconnect it, because the disconnect is on the inside of that. This one, the disconnect is on the outside to push in on this. But I pull it away from that wall to give me better grip, because they're not easy, man. I don't know why these connectors are so hard, but you got to push on them pretty good and pull at the same time. And you know, you're always scared of you're gonna pull a wire or something, man. But give them a good push, pull them apart, disconnect your radio antenna. And again, we got these down here. This just pulls out we got these 2 bolts. 1, 2. All these on the side are 13. All those are 13. I think these are 10. All right. Yep. So those were 10 millimeters. All right. So I remember now what the last 2 were. Why we had to drop the steering column. I wanted to get it out the way, but these 2 bolts up underneath there are connected to the frame that we got to pull. There's a plate right here. This plate stays in place, but them 2 bolts have got to come out. So they're 10 millimeter. We're gonna pull them, and then we should be able to pull this dash out the way. Oh, I had a sneak attack. One last bolt, guys. There's a little bar right here, and it goes in the bottom of this. But you get to it from underneath there, so don't forget that. But this whole dash is pulled out the way. Ooh, yeah, and that wiring harness, I forgot about that one. That wiring harness right there has got to come out. There's a cover. This black cover comes off. And push in, press down, pull out. That should come out. We'll get it out of there. But yeah, this has got to come off. Don't forget it. You don't want to pull these wires. I got to get down there and get that out of there. So yeah, just another pain in the butt harness to get disconnected. Probably, if I would have remembered it. I forgot about it, guys. That one's my bad. This cover sits on top of it. But you got to push down on this tab really hard. Push this tab in, this red tab in. Out here it's locked. Push it in to unlock it. And push down on this yellow tab. Pull it. It's a pain to get undone, guys, but it can be done. All right, guys, next. We got this out the way finally. I'm just gonna lay it on my seat because I will have plenty of room to work. Kind of laying down in here again. I said this job is done without disconnecting the AC lines, so this is actually the most important part when we get to the inside the hood of the vehicle. But for now, this whole top piece of this whole HVAC unit has to come off. You can see where it splits. This top will come off, so we're going to need to disconnect this actuator, and this actuator. Now would be a good time to take pictures of that, this, and this, so you can see how they're orientated, just in case you forget which way they go on there. And you're gonna have to disconnect this little line right here. This is new. If yours is original, it's gonna look a little different. Mine has aluminum pieces in it. Original is plastic, but they break, and that's why I have aluminum. So anyways, yeah. And if you have cracked flaps inside there, now's a good time to get them replaced too. But this job is about the heater core, and the lines for the heater core come in right here, go down. Your heater core is laying flat right in this area, and mine is leaking. So that's what we're trying to get to. But I'm going to disconnect these, and then from there I'm going to go into the hood, and we'll go in the hood and I'll show you what you got to do to get in there. First thing I'm going to do is get my air intake out the way. Easy. Flathead or 8 millimeter, whichever way you prefer. Loosen that up, and you can take this top piece off. Makes it a tad bit easier. Take this top piece off for your air intake. Your filter's right underneath there. Get this off of here. Alright, pull that off, and this whole piece just pulls up. Nothing bolted, it'll just pull up. I gotta use 2 hands, so just pull it up, finagle your way out of it. Same way it's gonna go back in. Leave your top and bottom pieces separate. A few bolts. Oh, let me grab my flashlight. All right. You're gonna disconnect your heater hose back there. That's probably the most difficult because they are a pain to get to back there. I'm gonna use needle nose, try to get to them. There they are. Them clips that are holding it tight. That's your heater cores in those lines. All right, so you're gonna undo them, pull this away from there. There's a bolt. These are all 10 millimeter. You're gonna pull that one off. There's one right there, 10 millimeter. You gotta undo your AC, what is this, dryer, evaporator, whatever it is. Those two right there have got to come off. All right. Your computer box, you don't have to disconnect any of those, but you gotta get that screw, and there's one on the bottom. You gotta get that one out. So we'll get all those things out the way. Them off of there. And we'll pull this out the way, and there's 3 more screws like those behind this. All right, we'll get all that, and then them 2 right there we got to get off. All right, so we got the computer out the way. So there's 2 bolts. One is actually plastic. That top one, you can just spin it with your finger, it'll come off. That bottom one's another 10 millimeter bolt down there, and what it is, it's just a bolt head. You can see right here, it's actually just a nut, and it goes over the bolt. So you're gonna need a deep well socket to get these off. I got them off, got that undone. All I got left is the heater hoses, and we'll be able to go back in the cab and finish up. All right, got the heater hoses disconnected. Take a picture of them before you completely pull them off, guys. That way you know which way they go back in there. All right, so back inside the truck, we got 2 nuts right here. 1, 2, 10 millimeter, and 1 bolt, 10 millimeter. All right, I've already taken them out. Here's the bolt, I guess, goes right there, and then these are the nuts. That's what these look like. You get 2 of these. Anyways, take them off, and then there's screws all the way around here. Phillips head screws. There's 15 all the way around, and the whole reason for going in there and disconnecting everything on the inside of that inside there is you can pull this out enough to get behind here and unscrew the screws that are back there, so you don't have to undo your AC lines like they tell you do. You can get just enough wiggle room to where you don't have to. So we got this pulled back. As you can see, you can get behind here. You have to come from up underneath, and you can get behind these dudes. Can be done. So I'm gonna get back here and get these done. Get them all undone, and we're gonna pull the top of this off. This is gonna have to come off too. There's 2 screws right here, and then there's 2 tabs in the back. Pull this completely off, because this wire right here is very, very difficult to disconnect back there in the back. So when I get this off, I'm gonna pull this up and pull it through this wiring harness, pull it through this way and take it out. Or even better, go ahead and pull this off first. You see there's 2 screws and there's these 2 tabs. You just pull back on those, and those 2 tabs, you pick this unit up, that way you can see where your other screws are. There's one there, back behind here, and all the way around. We'll get all them undone and take this whole top of this out. So pulled this out, pulled this up, got it out the way. This wiring harness goes over the top of this. That's why I said we took this box off of there first, so we can get this over it, wiggle our way, wiggle this thing out of there. It's not easy to do, but it can be done. There's our heater core. It stays mounted to the top. Done wiggled it all out of there. Pull this dude out. There it is. We'll find out where it's leaking from. So we did all that without disconnecting the AC lines. So just showing y'all it can be done. Yeah, it's a little tougher to get back behind there and do that, but I didn't have to bring it into a shop, get all the Freon pumped out of it, evacuated out of it, and I won't have to bring it back to get it pumped in. So yep. Take out this little rubber housing right here, foam housing, and all you got is these two little screws right here. They hold this in place, and these actually move. And you better get your heater core out of there. That's it. From there, it's putting everything back together. Okay, so my heater part, my heater core part come in. I got the new one placed in there. I just kind of slid it in there. It's got a marking on it. It's got a black spot on the top. That's got to be for the top one. If you look at it, one is longer, one is shorter. So the shorter one is the top. And start putting it back together, guys. Got to get it in there. Remember, we got to come in from this way and get this wire over the top of it, or at least I do, because that's how I didn't disconnect all this stuff right here. So, and then once you get it in here, you got to wiggle this thing, get it on there just right, get everything lined up, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so when you putting this top back on, there's a flap on this end. It's on the driver's side, right? That flap goes up and down. All right. I don't know if you can see it in there with the sun. If you can see the foam come up in there, I don't know. All right, but make sure that flap is down. You want it down, because if it's sitting up, it's more than likely it's going to hinder you being able to push this thing all the way down like it needs to and get snug. It'll give you a fit. So make sure, like I said, it is laying down inside there. Don't worry about when you put this back on. When you put it back on, it'll auto correct itself when you turn everything on. So yeah, make sure that's down. That flap, it's right here. All right, got all our screws in. Go ahead and line it up. All right, leave this box off for now. There's a see that screw down in there, that bolt that goes through the firewall, and it's going to come out the other side. So you're going to want to line all these up. This is going to line up in a hole in there when we push it forward. Yep, you'll see it in a second. But anyways, line everything up. Do it, get it from the bottom, pick up on it and push in. Make sure it goes through. Go on the other side, under the hood. Make sure everything is sticking out like it should. Get that sun out y'all's eyes. The two bolts coming through right there. The one bolt coming through right there. And your heater hose lines coming out. And that last bolt right there. You can see it, that bolt sticking out right there. All right, you want to make sure all of those come through the firewall. That way you know nothing's in a bind and everything's lined up the way it should. So all those are sticking through like they should. I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna put these two bolts on and get that one on the bottom. I'm gonna get them tightened up. Got everything tightened down, snugged up on the inside. On the outside, got everything tightened down, snugged up. Got my hoses lined up. So your hose, I told y'all in the beginning, mark it, make sure you know which one's which. Actually, mine has top written on the one that goes on the top, but I put the bottom one on first. Put the bottom one on, slide it on, put a little lube. I just spit it on my finger, run it on the inside of the hose, slid it on there, put the clamp on, then I put the top one on, put the clamp on it. Just easier that way. Gives you a little more room, one at a time. So for the rest of this project, just go back through the video if you need to, see how things came apart, and that's how they're gonna go back together. So thanks for watching. If this helps you out, just let me know.